Hi, my name is Mallory, and I will be talking about the career of a forensic psychologist. Have you ever wondered what happens if the criminal is plead with criminally insane? Well, there is a position that upholds that and gathers all the data and observations and every part of information and evidence that will lead to that plead of being criminally insane for the offender. And that position is the forensic psychologist. A forensic psychologist can observe, analyze, conduct interviews, and even can also make tests of their own and studies to prove that there is a criminal who is criminally insane. As well, they can also determine if the motives or intentions of the criminal based on how they are answering a question or the way that they do answer the question. Now, for instance, that they have the test called the Rorschach's test. Basically, it looks like black blobs of an image, but certain people who are used as these tests can see an image to themselves, and they usually test on what they see, and that is how the forensic psychologists figure out what their intentions were or how they think. As well, they can also determine the behavior and the emotional patterns that a criminal has. An interesting fact to know about forensic psychologists is that they don't only do criminally behaviors or profiling, but they can also be in like child custody cases. For instance, if there is parents that are divorcing or there's somebody that wants legal guardianship of another, they will see how safe the child is in whose hands. To begin with, the history behind forensic psychology wasn't the first thing that it came to be. Of course, there was the father of psychology named William Wundt. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. But he found out psychology by analyzing and gathering data as well, but not for criminals. As time evolved, criminals have gone down to by the name of James McKean Cattell. From Margarita Tartakowiecki, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. She has an article about the history behind forensic psychology and how it came to be. She describes that it came from, of course, the father of psychology, but then it evolves down to how it became forensic psychology. There was the name of James McKean Cattell, who conducted studies about how people respond to things. So, for instance, if somebody's in the court and you are testifying and the DA or the prosecutor is asking you questions, a forensic psychologist can observe that and see how they are. There's some people that are confident in the way they answer, or they can be very insecure on how they answer. Another psychologist by the name of William Stern that Tartakowiecki has mentioned is that he was a German psychologist that found out that criminalists had an interesting experience that there's also eyewitnesses that are not always accurate. But over time, it has in psychology evolving in the 20th century or in the 1900s is that studies have found that there is ways that how criminal can think, and they have found ways that they can profile them and see if they are criminally insane. As well, they can see their patterns and they can classify them, basically profiling them. Moving on is what is required or the education requires, what's training, what the licensing requires. So the education is, of course, getting a doctorate's degree, getting a PsyD or a PhD in psychology. As well, if you're going into forensic psychology, not only is the psychology the most important, but also getting a degree in criminal law or in criminal justice. There is other degrees that you can get. You can, of course, get your master's degree. Depends on where you want to work. But, of course, if you're a clinical, you want to get a doctorate. But a master's can be acceptable too. It depends on where you're working. For instance, if you're going to an organizational psychologist, you might need your master's. In some cases, a bachelor's degree can be acceptable as well. All you would need is be having a degree from the psychology, social science, and education. Moving along to licensing is it depends on where you're working and what state you are in, and it varies on how many hours that you are required for. But the training it is very much required for the licensing. You must have a 1 to 2 experience of of an internship to be able to get your license. Next, there are quite a few things that that forensic psychologists do and tell. There, for instance, they can determine if the offender is a public threat or it's not, or they're pretty much a danger to society. They can, because of that, they can work on parole boards or they can be on probation boards. They can help determine if this criminal can be okay to go back into society. Like I said, it depends on also what the case was. Moving forward to the future is that the outlook to forensic psychology is that it is increasing each decade as well as each year by 8% from 2020 to 2030. In the U.S. labor, in the, my apologies, in the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, they have proven and said that by 2020 to 2030, it will grow and that it will become more popular. As well, because of that, the salary to that of median annual wage is $82,180 per year. But it depends. Entry level might be a lot lower. It might be close to about $60,000 to $75,000. How, on the other hand, there are some negative things that come with becoming a forensic psychologist. It can be very time consuming, especially when you want to have your personal time at home. If you're married at the time and you have your own spouse, it can be very time consuming. It can be very stressful, and in some cases can be very dangerous because you can be working with criminals. But moreover, I have found more research about who has been a psychologist or who works as a psychologist. From the piece Home, Dr. Eric Hickey is now a dean of the California School of Forensic Studies at Alliant International University, who is now teaching the criminal psychology about criminal profiling and as well the criminal psychology. He has done many research about and also been on the field and worked with those who are criminally insane, has worked with psychopaths and habitual offenders. Now his teachings have been published and been in books, lectures, and they have been taught all of psychology. In conclusion, there has been many emphasizing about the career of forensic psychology. It's TV and other medias make it all glory and glamour, not really glamorous, but it's cool and has action, but it's not all what it is. It's pretty serious and pretty challenging and as well very, like I said, very dangerous. But the reason why I chose this career is because I want to be able to help those that get closure on the case for somebody that wants to have that feeling that it's like, I have justice, I have got the justice that I deserve, as well as those that deserve to serve the justice that they have received. Thank you.